don't spend a lot of time looking at myself. I probably should get to work. Ah, what the hell is that? Oh, it's me. Anyhow, moving on. Hello and welcome to, Carlin's Worlds. Yeah, that should work. I'm a wanderer, a tinkerer, sometimes a nomad, a military veteran. I do things differently. There will be tinkering. I have a motorcycle, a truck, and a school bus. I live off-grid, so there will be some solar, batteries, inverters, and maybe even some wind. It blows. And that's all I can fit into about 30 seconds. Oh, and please, if you like any of this, it would be really awesome if you could subscribe and click that notify bell. Drop a comment if you have any questions or ideas. Share, like, comment, subscribe, notify. Oh, and Patreon if you're really an awesome kind of person. Cool. On with the show already. Alright, so it's 5 o'clock p.m. The bed is trash because I kept putting stuff on it because that's the only other flat spot in here. So that's going to be a mess. But I got the bed cleared. This is all work in progress. This is the riding gear. I'm thinking what could happen, the riding gear could end up sitting on that chair for now until I figure out something better to do with it. Maybe eventually I'll make some kind of a shelf or something for it. Because I get home, take off the helmet. Where do you put it? It has always just sat on the driver's seat. And then the jacket and the riding pants has to go somewhere. So again, it would just sit on the driver's seat. Now what I want to do, this is like really close to being, something. I didn't show on camera, but it is really easy to get that steering wheel out of there. So very likely by the end of tomorrow, instrument console, steering wheel will be gone. Pedals, I think I'm going to leave where they are, unless it looks like it's, if it's an easy assembly to pull out from the other side, but I got to keep in mind, I want to make sure I don't leave a hole that I can't fill. So that would be that. Other note, because I took this piece off, look at how much room that is. That's like over a foot that was just tied up with that piece. Same thing on this side. If I could make a headboard for the bed, which would be, remarkably easy, put the bed all the way right up to the edge of the door then, that would give me another foot here. All right. That's the kind of thing that just ripples back here, because I could turn this shelf the other way then, or, almost nothing on this shelf is really, good stuff. I mean, really from here to there is wasted space. Yeah, it's got stuff on it, but those white shelves were just a matter of convenience, and they are not optimum for anything. I just kind of try to do as best I can, but because, right now the trash is in front of it, but, the bottom shelf is almost completely empty. That's cleaning supplies. That can go anywhere. That one's almost empty. Cliff bars. That would be what you would put in your bathroom if I had a bathroom. It's not very well optimized. I'll just say that. An idea for something fell. Whatever. An idea for down the line. I'm looking at the bed now. I've always liked the idea of a captain's bed with storage underneath it. In this case, I built the bed purposely really high, and there is a lot of crap underneath there. A great big cooler that cost me way too much money that I don't really use, and there's the army cot and motocross fox boots from the Alaska trip, and a couple duffel bags, and so it is well utilized as far as storage. But it comes all the way out to the aisle, right? Nothing else is that wide. I mean, if you look back, all the way back, like where the hamper is, the laundry hamper, the shelves back there are only, I think, 2 feet wide, and they're just at the edge of the wheel well, the wheel humps. That's another bus-related thing. If you're doing a conversion, that white area down here, that's the wheel hump for the duals. All right, so you need to look for something to cover that up with or work around it somehow. Good place for a shelf. So what I was looking at a while ago If I made this sort of like a Murphy bed, only instead of it folding up lengthwise, it would fold up sideways. All right. One of the things I looked at, if I folded the bed up against the window, well, that would be bad. It would block some of the light, but not a big deal. Also, this is tying totally into the spaceship motif still. So you're in your spaceship, you get up, you're not going to sleep anymore, so you put the bed up, now you got more usable space. All right. So I'm thinking, I've got 2 big whiteboards and a bunch of little whiteboards. One of the things I miss the most is a place to put the whiteboards, and so far there really isn't one in here because the ceiling curves and then you don't want to block your windows. So what do, right? Eventually when I build my outside shop, there's going to be one wall dedicated to whiteboards. It's going to be just awesome. But in the meantime, I'm thinking if I make the bed such that it folds up, pin it to the wall, underneath the bed is your whiteboards, all right? And then from about, I'm not sure that I'd make the bed this high then, but I might. So then from, say, here over, have drawers that come out that wouldn't be accessible until you lift the bed up, because you don't really need to get into the drawer when you're in bed, right? So you fold the bed up, now you got access to all the drawers, you got the whiteboard space on top, and maybe you'd put a stool or something underneath the bed. And with a open space on the opposite side, here's another thought that I was looking at. If you put your easy chair on this side, you could mount your flat panel TV under the bed. Although it would be nice to be able to watch movies in bed. So kind of work through that. I do have 3 24-inch monitors that I'm only using one of right now. So, a monitor this big and a bus this big is freaking awesome. I did also look at, here's another possibility. With the bed folded up, I could put my easy chair right up against the bed. I'd have room on this side for a nice 40-inch plasma or something like that, or I could go a 60-inch if I wanted to, but that's a little bit silly. But it would work, right? So it would just be right up flat against the wall. It wouldn't take up any space, and you'd put the chair over here. If you weren't watching TV, you could put the chair there, and you'd have a reading lamp right underneath that. Just don't hit your head on that too many times, because that's the bottom of the shelf. Yeah, I beamed that pretty hard today because I'm not used to being able to do that, because usually there's something in the way here. I had another, I'm not sure if that really showed up in the video. I didn't specifically get a shot of it. So the white surface here is 24 inches by 48. It's a piece of Formica shelf board pre-made. And so I bought 2 of them. One for here. This was originally for the spaceship in Austin, my cockpit in my living room. And the other one is sitting back there, leaned up against the washing machine right now. All right, so one of those was in this space here. And this was the chair for it. I talked about the casters on the bottom of the chair. Yeah, I just bought a couple 2x4s and 1x4s, stacked them up to get the right height, and the same on one over there. That one's a little bit taller. Those wheels were more expensive, but they were the right height. And I bought these for the second chair because I didn't need them as much. All right, so that desk was another one like it over here. 2 24-inch monitors were here. That was where the big computer was. That computer didn't get used very much because it used too much power. So I kind of started doing everything on the laptop that's over there. Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, I'm thinking we build out the front workstation, 3 24-inch monitors all the way across, have one for different tasks. That'll be pretty slick. And then I'm liking this space now because when all of this stuff is gone, that black box right here, that's all going to come out tomorrow. That's the heater core box. It's just completely nothing but a heater core right now. It's basically loose now. When I disconnect the 2 hoses, that whole area will be open. So that should leave me enough room that this chair doesn't pivot. But if I have a chair that pivots here, I can face this way or I can face this way. take out what's left of the instrument console, take out the steering wheel, mount my monitors, put myself a little shelf here for my keyboard and my mouse, and we're set. Later on, we take out the door, fill in the floor, duplicate a window sort of like this on that side so we have matching, and then we come back, and I checked this out already, on this where the vent is, put the door there. So basically duplicate that back here, only we don't use the bus door. Because this thing it's getting bad, it's going to eventually break or fall apart. And it's one of those things I could fix it, but I don't want to. I just don't want to put the energy into fixing something I don't like. So we take that idea, maybe even reuse these steps, but what I'm actually thinking is instead of stepping down inside, I want to have a flat floor all the way to the door, make me a cove here. So basically just cut from here to there, make it kind of like a tunnel arch going out, because I'm not going to drive this anyway, and then put a regular door even with the outside edge, and then just open this up. It's just metal. You know, you think about it as like, yeah, it's a big deal, but this is the kind of thing I used to do in the Navy. I mean, obviously on airplanes they didn't let me just move doors around, but rivets come out. It's a little bit of work. It's a lot of work, but it's doable. And it's pretty easy looking at it to say, okay, I could cut the section out, buy some metal, weld up a frame, mount the door to the frame, and then just skin it. Yeah, it's kind of frightening. I thought about it almost a year ago and I haven't done it yet, so it gives you an idea. Yeah, it's a big deal, but it's doable. And since I'm never going to drive the bus anyway, I'm not really worried about losing a little bit of structural. This is so much stronger than like a travel trailer or something that, you know, plus now that it's leveled and blocked, it's pretty stable. So, and then I would just remove that window and frame in a door, and we're set. From that, I could have a step on the outside instead of on the inside, because this step takes up almost 2 feet by 2 feet of usable floor space, right? So close up that, run my floor all the way out. Also, the section is going to come out. This is another heater core, but I'm putting that off until much later. But looking at it, almost all of this dashboard assembly comes out. So I could move probably 6 inches further forward yet. I don't know that I need to. But if I take that out, then I'd have plenty of room for another workstation here where my chair could then pivot and look this way. I'm pretty excited about this. I don't know if you can tell. But first we'll get this one finished. And this, you know, the way this all kind of ties together, I've already gotten rid of this one. If I can move what's there up to this corner, that gets me 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the dryer, 5 windows. That's almost half the bus. There's 11 windows, and that's back to the 5th or 6th one. That's a quarter of the bus. All right. So I could do my conversion up here first, get it the way I want it, lock it down, and then do from here back. And I could do insulation, I can do windows, redo the shelf. This shelf was just a quick hack, the best I could do then, but I could build something nicer. You know, maybe put doors across the top of it. I mean, I don't drive, so it's not going to fall out, but I can make it look nicer. Short version of the windows. These windows come out very easily. There's 3 screws on each side and they just come right out. What I want to do, there's 2 different sizes of windows. I'm going to go by plexiglass. And what I'm looking at is the plexiglass is 48 inches by 96, 4 foot by 8 foot. If I rip that in thirds, it's 16 inches by 8 feet long. So I can take, instead of it being the full length, or the full vertical, make a 16-inch window. It's about this big. make a wood frame, plexiglass window, and then probably OSB on the bottom 6 inches or so. I'd lose a little bit, but not very much. Plexiglass is about $200 a sheet, I think, depending on the thickness. But it's very strong, which is not a big deal. But I would then have a window that was completely sealed instead of these things that leak a lot of air. Wintertime, that's a big deal. And then that bottom 6 inches, I could make modular, that I could take out the wood and put in a screen unit on the bottom or something like that. So I'm kind of doing mix and match in my head. There's a little one and a big one. Some of these I may make completely plexiglass with no wood on the bottom. Some I'm in the back. I'm not going to use plexiglass on every panel. I may just do complete wood on some of them. But it's not going to modify the bus at all, right? So if I ever decided I wanted to go back or found a better way, take out the same screws, pull that window out, and I can do something else. Summertime, I may just make a complete screen panel and then put a awning over it on the outside to keep the rain out. And then I'd have lots of airflow. I could also take the whole thing out, put a screen in there, and put a box fan in and just suck a lot of air through here. Would make a huge difference. Also today, when I had this side door open while I was working over here, it was like awesome how much wind was blowing through here from one side to the other. So I don't normally do that this year because I get so many bugs in here. Last year I was still adjusting to the heat and I had doors open, windows open, back door open, and I had wind just blowing through here. And then I bought a mosquito net to deal with how many bugs came in at night, you know, but it was like survival. I'm like, okay, I need something to keep me alive in here, so I just let all the air in and deal with it. So that was kind of how that turned out. But anyway, that's kind of our progress for now, and we'll hit it again tomorrow. It's going to be months before I get around to cutting that door out. Maybe next year. It's kind of one of those things where you don't really want to cut a big gaping hole in your bus coming up on winter, kind of thing. But you also don't want to do it in the heat of the summer either, so because then it's too hot to work. But this was a good day. It was fun, and it was encouraging how well it worked. Now I haven't messed with the wiring yet, but since I'm not likely to tie into the bus systems very much, I'm probably looking for 3 or 4 wires that I want to reuse, and the rest of them I'm just going to cap off and not use them. So that part is good. Cool, thanks for watching. More tomorrow. I was looking at this morning while I was eating my oatmeal, and I just kind of wanted to point this out. If you had a bus that you're doing a conversion on, that you were going to drive still, if I was going to drive this bus, I would seriously be thinking about this. The entire switch panel that was in this position was about 95% empty space. Okay? So if I was going to drive this as like a motorhome type conversion, the work that I've done up until now would actually still be good. I would have, leave the heater core in place, but remove that whole top section. You got room here for a cooler or something, So you drive along, you got a cooler right next to you, that'd be great. Now the wiring that I moved, yeah, a lot of that you still need. This is all the wire. That's for your lights in the back, but you could easily have put that wire in the first 2 or 3 inches here, build a little box for it, and then make your own little switch panel, because the switch panel that they had for the bus, well, personally I don't like it anyway, so I'm not going to give you any good reviews on that, but it's really overkill for if you're just using this as a motorhome conversion, so that might be worth looking at anyway. Alright, so you could get, depending on your building skills or whatever, but I mean, you could take a piece of plywood and cover up that section and put your switches right there and you'd be done. And then you got this nice open area here that you could put something more useful into. Just a thought. Anyway, I'm still drinking my coffee and getting ready to get started for the day. It's about 60, might be 62 degrees now. It's that's relatively warm, except for when it was 90 degrees yesterday. It feels really cold right this morning, so I'm gonna wait a little bit for it to warm up, then I'll get started. But just was looking at that, I'm like, not everybody's gonna do this, and that's fine. It's just, this is not how to do it. This is how I'm doing it. But I still think that it would be worth looking at. Now, obviously, if you're not comfortable tearing the wiring apart on your bus, then probably just ignore this part. Right? Heater core. Heck yeah, it was like, okay, well, this is one of the things I used to do for a living, so it was relatively easy though. So, here's a trick if you're ever doing something like this. Take your hose clamps off first and then take a sharp knife and slice the hose because they are permanently bonded on there by heat. I mean, not on purpose, it's just, they were hot. And so they cook themselves on, so you really can't get them to break loose, especially in a confined space. So just consider that expendable. Take your sharp knife, slice it, and then grab the edge and peel it open, and then that'll break the bond. And I did that on both sides. If you've never done something like that before, you see this, right there. There's this bead here. Most fittings will have that for like heaters and that kind of thing. So your hose slides over that, and then your hose clamp would go back here to keep it from sliding off. So when you're sliding it off, you're pulling it over that little nub kind of thing. All right. When you figure out what size your hose clamps are, usually they're all the same size. That makes it easier. In this case, there was one that was a different size, and they were in odd angles. So one of them I took off with a ratchet, and I think I ended up using an 8mm because I've got a bunch of 1/4 inch that are metric, and 8mm is really close to, I think these are 5/16 off the top of my head. Usually I just figure out what size it is and just forget about it. When I was a mechanic, my tools, I would take either paint marker or sometimes different colors of tape, and I would mark my wrenches for projects. So like for instance down there, if you see next to the orange screwdriver, there's a wrench with yellow tape. That's either 5/16 or 8mm, I can't remember because it's taped over, but that's the right size for hose clamps and also for side post battery terminals. Alright, I've got this tipped up on its end, fittings up so that it doesn't leak on me, and I'll just take it outside. Once I'm outside, I'll probably tip it up and drain the coolant out of it just so I don't have it leak on me later. I'm going to save this because, I might have mentioned this on the other clip, if I can get a working solar water heater working, excess heat from that I could run back through this. And, so what I'm thinking, I get home towards sunset, the water has heated all day. If I could have 50 gallons of water that's relatively warm, that could take the chill off the bus when I first get home. Now, it's not going to heat it all night, although if you had 1,000,000 gallons, you probably could do that. There's an idea for later. But, so this, as far as I know, it didn't leak. So if I could run warm water through it and then take the fan that was part of this, put it back together, it's just simple heat exchanging. You take hot water, put it in, blow the fan through the grid, hot air comes out, right? On the flip side, this was an idea I had in Austin that I never really capitalized on. If it's 120 degrees in here in the summer, which, well, maybe it's a slight exaggeration, but not much, you could blow air that's 100 degrees through here and use that to heat up your water for your shower. And that would also tend to cool down the air a little bit. How about that? I never got to test it, but the theory seems like it would work. So a couple of heater cores and a couple of good fans, you might be able to warm up some water and cool down the air at the same time. It's just simple heat exchanging. If you're at 110 degrees inside the bus and you can drop it down to 97, that feels pretty good. Just a thought. and you get free hot water. Yeah. Last thing, when you're cutting something open, just expect that it's going to leak and have something handy. In this case, I knew everything was disconnected, so that when I got the last two hoses cut, and you can see I cut that one also, same idea, right? Pulled it out fairly quickly, and got the heater core standing up on its end, and then I was able to quickly get this coffee can down there to catch the last little bit of drip so I didn't go all over. I had a little bit of a spill, but not too bad. Worked out pretty well. I thought this was interesting. I suspect that they engineered it this way on purpose. They just put a shim of a piece of plywood underneath the heater core just to get it up off the ground a little bit. Maybe that cut down on vibrations or something. But it's not even attached, it's just loose in there. So, you know, they just figured, okay, let's put it in there and then that'll take up a little bit of space. You know, kind of a vibration damper maybe or something. Okay, now that I got the heater core out of the way, I'm going to revel in my successes, and then I'm going to disconnect the bottom end of those two hoses. Also, I got to remember there's a pretty good gap there. I can see daylight coming through. So when I pull that hose out, then I've got a spot for mice to get in. So I'll take care of that. Most likely it'll be a soup can lid and a couple screws and some silicone and we'll be done. Also, inside of here, there's a flap door that goes to the outside. I'm going to screw that shut for now. I may later, actually, where's the end of this? Yeah, there's a cable that controls that. So that might be something to think about for later. It would be kind of cool to hook a fan back up to that. That's, you know, not, you know, monster size. And then I could blow cool air in or whatever. Would be kind of nice to have an outside air vent. Of course, without driving, it doesn't get much blowing in there, so. Anywho, that'd be that. So yeah, next step, disconnect the bottom of these and then go on the outside because I got the hood open. And disconnect the outside. I was thinking that that was a heater core over here. But it seems like maybe they didn't put it on this bus. Maybe it was set up for a heater core and that's just empty. Because from the outside, there is a hose that comes from the radiator up to that bulkhead, but it's just got an elbow from what I can see and it goes across. So it doesn't seem like it goes into that. So I'm thinking while I'm doing this today, I might as well take that whole box apart. And what I'm talking about is where those vents are. That whole box goes all the way down to the floor, and I think it's just empty space. So I'm going to open that up. Also, the very top piece of this goes all the way across in two pieces. That's the defroster duct. And it sticks up 2 or 3 inches. Okay, so I can take that off and then work my way down. And what I'm looking at is by the end of today, I think I can have this all the way bare down to the firewall and remove the steering column. And then I'll just kind of stop for a little bit until I can catch up with myself. But my plan now is I'm thinking once I get it basically bare, I could lay some insulation like styrofoam up against the firewall and then build another kind of a bulkhead there. Leave myself enough room for my feet. And then build out my console. And what I'm looking at is enough of a flat surface to put a laptop, places to mount my monitors, and then a secondary shelf for the keyboards and a few cup holders, of course. And I'm probably going to have some place in the dash for all of the switches and all the lights because it's a spaceship. And I've also got the entire overhead available still. And a lot of your airplanes and stuff will have switches up over your head. So some of that might happen also because when I'm back here, this is the setup I've got right now. Right? This is the angle you don't see very often. This white piece is 24 inches deep, 48 inches across. It's a pre-made Formica with unfinished edges. Shelf piece, basically. And I've got the monitor stand there. That's where the camera usually sits. And then the other monitor. So it's a dual 24-inch monitor stand. I've got 2 of those. So the other workstation had 2 of those. And then up above, this is where my stereo is and some of my switches. So when I'm sitting down, I can reach up and just turn on different lights and so on. This switch turns on the radio. And this switch over here turns on the inverter. So when I move my command workstation up to the front, I'll just redo these wires and put all of this up to there. So I'm thinking very likely I'll have a bracket or something up like where the speaker is above the mirror. I don't really need the mirror there, so that might be a mirror I put back where, you know, like I'm shaving or something like that. Don't spend a lot of time looking at myself. I probably should get to work. Ah, what the hell is that? Oh, it's me. Anyhow, moving on. I just can't resist trying this. Kick all the tools out of the way. So you get down in the seat, right? Now if I can set this seat up for a pivot. Oh yeah, this totally works. I got enough room. Yeah, that'll work, right? Yeah. Cool. Oh, I was having a hard time visualizing and I didn't think to actually measure it. So yeah, if I can just leave the seat where it is and then put it with a pivot, give it 180 degrees so I can look this way, have a console here like a laptop, or a tracing table would be kind of cool. And if I can get a piece of plexiglass as a tracing table and just put it right up to the window, I won't need a light then. That'll be great. This will work. All right, cool. Get out of here without hitting something. Well, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, that should work. Cool. I do things differently. Oh, and please, if you like any of this, it would be really awesome if you could subscribe and click that notify bell. Drop a comment if you have any questions or ideas. Share, like, comment, subscribe, notify. Oh, and Patreon if you're really an awesome kind of person. Thank you so much for watching.